Hello, good morning, and welcome back to Appreciating Literature. Today we have the continuation of the essay on running after one's hat. So, we have already seen the lesson. Today we will have the summary, and whatever was not clear to you in the first class, I hope it will be clarified in this class. So, let us go to the summary. In On Running After One's Hat by G.K. Chesterton, we have the theme of escape, embarrassment and acceptance. So, mostly in this essay we find three themes. They are escape, then embarrassment. Embarrassment means in Malayalam we say നാണക്കേട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ചമ്മൽ എന്നൊക്കെയാണ് embarrassment. Then acceptance. So when we have certain situations which are not very pleasant, we have to accept that. From his On Running After One's Hat, the reader realizes that Chesterton may be exploring the theme of escape. So after reading the essay, we feel that he may be trying to explore the ways of escapism, how to escape from reality maybe. For Chesterton, it is easier to imagine himself acting as a child might do when it comes to matters of inconvenience. So when you are facing with some inconvenience, that is അസൗകര്യങ്ങൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകൾ, then he would like to look at that particular situation like a child. He believes that a person will be happier if he changes his outlook or view life through the lens of a child when encountering inconvenience. So, in order to escape this kind of difficulties, he would like to suggest that we better look at the situation just like a child would do. But how far it is practical is a big question. How far we can change into the role of a child or a boy. Not only will an individual remain calm, but they will treat each convenience as an adventure, just as a child might. So rather than treating it as an inconvenience, we can change into an adventure. That's what he feels. Just like in a kind of flood, we can romanticize and say it is an adventure. That's a possibility. Chesterton presenting the young boy at the railway station is an example. So when the adults or the old people get annoyed, they become impatient when a train is delayed. Whereas for the child, that railway station is like a palace of mysteries, wonders. He has no room for complaining. He really enjoys whatever is seen there, because for him it is something new. It's a world of wonder. But for a man who has seen all that, it is kind of boring, or rather he feels very impatient at that waiting that has to be done. Whereas the boy, of course, doesn't grumble or complain about the fact that the train is late. He enjoys every moment. Rather, he sees everything at the station as being wonderfully exciting. Though Chesterton may have a point here, it might be important to remember that many people will encounter difficulty looking at life through the lens of a child. So here you find Chesterton has overlooked certain facts. For a child it is okay, but a person who is going for an important meeting or a kind of emergency and waiting for a train, definitely it is not going to be very pleasant. Suppose I have to catch a flight after traveling in the train. or an appointment or an interview. Just imagine that. So we cannot see it always as a kind of adventure where we enjoy all that. There are times when we really feel that it is very painful, it is very embarrassing. So it is very good to say or suggest that we can look at the whole thing with the mind of a child and all that. But embarrassment will overtake them and they will feel isolated from the world. So if you look at certain things like a child, definitely the society will isolate such people. We will feel separated. As many people who have chased their hats might feel. So coming to chasing after one's hat or running after one's hat, people will look at that incident in a funny way. They will not take it in a sportive or sportsman spirit. They will laugh at such an incident. It is this embarrassment that an individual feels which will stop him chasing his hat, as he knows that those onlookers who notice what is happening are laughing at him rather than with him. So in some societies at least, this chasing after one's hat is embarrassing. So people will rather leave their hat alone rather than running after it and collecting it back. It's because that is the way people or the society look at it. It is something to laugh at rather than laugh with that person. So these are two different things. Laughing at means making fun of you. They ridicule you. Laughing with you means they join you in your enjoyment or pleasure. These are two different things. So laughing at a person is not very pleasant when you are at the receiving end. So something that Chesterton overlooks in this essay. So this aspect where you cannot really take it as something that is normal, especially when you run after your hat. You can be made fun of, you can be ridiculed by others, and you also can definitely feel the pain of it. So this is what Chesterton had not considered. He has rather overlooked this fact. For Chesterton, life is simply better when society drops its guard and allows for the individual to be himself without being overtly criticized by society. But we know society cannot be changed. We cannot change the way society looks at people. Society will be always critical at you, critical towards your every action. So this is one thing that we cannot help. It is good to expect society to be objective, to be fair and all that, but in practical life the society will not be very kind to you. They will be always unkind and very harshly criticizing you or judging you. However, the reality in life is very much different. Society likes to laugh at the mishaps that occur in an individual's life. So in public you can be easily embarrassed because people are always looking for fun. So definitely they will laugh at you rather than laugh with you. It helps society to deflect away from its own problems or worries. So the people there in the public, the society, they come from various walks. They are all not very decent or educated people. So they would like to forget their worries and their problems by laughing at you, laughing at your own mistakes or blunders. It is easier to laugh at another person than to reflect on one's own blunders. So when you have a lot of problems and a lot of defects, naturally we try to cover them and look at other people's problems or their weaknesses rather than reflecting on our own weaknesses. Something that will not change regardless of Chesterton's assertion that it is good to laugh at a man chasing a hat. So this view of Chesterton may not be accepted by everybody, that when chasing a hat, people should laugh with that person rather than laughing at a person. Or when others are laughing at you, you take it positively. That also may not be possible always. One point in which Chesterton might be right is on the matter of men chasing after women. So according to Chesterton, this man running after his wife may not be very unpleasant, or people will rather look at it in a less amusing way rather than chasing a hat. Though this in itself may be considered by some to be ridiculous, it is nonetheless acceptable to society. So a man running after a wife will be accepted by society, whereas a man running after one's hat may not be easily acceptable. So as such, it does not merit the same attention for others. So a man running after a wife may be seen as something normal compared to man running after a hat. People will notice a man chasing his hat quicker than they will notice a man chasing a woman down the street. So it depends on the society. Every society will not be same. So Chesterton is in a way generalizing it. Maybe in his society, in London, maybe that will be applicable, but in a different society, it will not work like that. Chesterton may also be suggesting that society should look closer at it and realign itself with his train of thought. So Chesterton may be expecting the society to adjust itself with his line of thought, which may not be always possible. All will not be that kind and as sportsman like the author. This would be a romantic view in life that is not necessarily productive. So this romantic view of life may not be acceptable by everyone. They all have their own point of view. Taking the flooding in London as an example, for Chesterton there is a degree of excitement. Now you take the example of flood. Now he wants to look at it in a very romantic way, like an adventure, how the flood is changing the whole landscape into waterscape and all that, and he imagines the people moving in boats and all that. All these are very good to imagine, but when you come to reality, it can be very embarrassing, it can be very painful, it can be disastrous, especially when your house is flooded and you lose everything. You can't have a romantic view on that. It is almost trying to destroy your life. However, for those who live in London, the flooding of their homes may be something that could be considered disastrous and costly, definitely. When you are at the receiving end, you will not be able to laugh at the same scenario. That is, if an individual has the necessary funds to renovate and redecorate their home, so even to such people, it is a disaster because they have to spend a lot of money and time on renovating or redecorating their homes. But for other people who don't have the money, then definitely the flooding, it cannot be that romantic. It could definitely lead to homelessness and also poverty. It is worse than disaster for them. So that is reality. We can't be always romanticizing about such situations. Chesterton is looking at life through the tinted glasses and not really being honest with the reader. So definitely he is in a fool's paradise, or he is in an imaginary world. He is not in a practical level. Flooding causes tremendous damage and hardship for some, and it is difficult to look at the devastation that flooding causes as being an adventure to be enjoyed. That's the same thing I explained before. People who really suffer from that, you can't enjoy that. It's like in Malayalam we say, when somebody else's mother is mad, you can laugh at. But what about when your own mother gets mad or become mad? So this is the same thing. When flood is affecting other people, you can romanticize, you can enjoy, you can get excited about it. But when you are the victim of a flood, then your romantic view will definitely vanish. It is also interesting that Chesterton is able to split himself into two separate camps, the outlook of a child and the outlook of an adult. So he is trying to look at the same reality from different views, like that of a child and also of an adult. Though the reader is left wondering as to what might trigger Chesterton to view life through the eyes of an adult. So after reading, we don't know what could cause this reader to shift to the view of an adult, or what might trigger that view. If anything, Chesterton simplifies situations in order to maintain a romantic view of life. So if there is something relevant in his view, that is maybe looking at everything in a romantic or rather positive way. Something which may lead some readers to suggest that Chesterton is simply wrong in his outlook. So if you look at it in a very realistic sense, his outlook is definitely wrong. He is looking at the whole thing in a wrong way. Because life itself is not a simple matter and is in fact complicated by man himself. So life is not very simple, it is very, very complicated. So maybe some people are able to look at life in a different way. If at all life is simple, but that is not the case. On the other hand, Chesterton's outlook does have some validity and may be of benefit to people. Now, in what way can the author's outlook be helpful to people? Life can be much simpler and less annoying if an individual can be positive in his outlook, regardless of the loss or loss he may incur. Sometimes we may come across certain loss in life, maybe financial loss or personal loss. But then how do you deal with that? If something happens, we can't do much about it. For example, a death or an accident. After happening, you can't change it. You have to see what to do next. So rather than looking at what happened and regret about it, we always have to look ahead and think about what can be done. So that may be one way of looking at it. That's the only positive thing about Chesterton's view, being positive about what is going to happen. A positive mind will rectify a negative situation quicker than a negative mind. So definitely we know that having a positive mind will have its own benefits. In reality, a person with a positive mind is difficult to defeat. So if you have a positive mind, definitely you can win. Whatever you lose, definitely you can get back everything that you have lost. We have stories of many people who lost everything in life, but then they have gained more than what they lost. So that is the power of positivity. Although maintaining positivity when facing negativity can be difficult. So it is not always easy to be positive in the face of negative occurrence in life. Something that Chesterton does not admit to, nor does he see it as being important. So that it is difficult to face problems in life, or it is difficult to be positive always. That is something that Chesterton has not admitted or not actually accepted in his writing. For Chesterton, positivity is something that an individual can immediately switch on. So that is the way he sees it. A person can be positive anytime, anywhere, irrespective of the situation. The case of Chesterton's friend and the drawer is an example. So the person who is finding it difficult to open the drawer, and he is trying to encourage him. So we know that it is sometimes very hopeless and desperate when you cannot get things done as we wish. Chesterton simply isn't being practical, though his romantic view on life is admirable. So to be positive always, to be romantic or romanticizing about this kind of situation is always ideal, but when it comes to practical life, it will not be always possible. However, as mentioned, Chesterton may be looking at things through the tinted glass or from a distance. So sometimes he may be looking at realities with a colored glass, where he is not able to see things as they are. He himself has not mentioned as to whether he struggles when it comes to admitting to running after his hat. So rather than looking inwardly, he is actually looking outward. So he is not analyzing his feelings, how he would feel if he had to run after his hat. That he is not mentioning. Chesterton has chosen to look outward rather than inward, something that society itself does. So he is actually taking the side of the society where they look at everything in a funny way, where they are not looking at their own fault rather than finding the fault of other people. So that's what the author also has done. So with that we have come to the end of this summary. So let us come back with another lesson. Until then, it is goodbye. Thank you.